Good morning. Just to let you know that the ETGA task force is meeting to trying to finalize the documents for us to see them today. And they will need an extra 10-15 minutes. So we will start at 9:45. Okay, that will hopefully allow us to make some decisions today, and not needing the 7th December meeting, which would be very good. So valuable 15 minutes, I hope. Thank you. So, good morning once again, and welcome to the last day of the December board meeting. Yes, my voice is not the best one, but I will rely upon Ken's and Caroline's help to run the part of the meeting in case I'm not able. So it's not COVID. I tested. Don't be afraid, because I hope not to be infecting anyone. So this morning we have two topics in our agenda: the ETGA project, the developments after this week's board discussion, and some comments that were brought to the task force afterwards, and the sustainability project. On both of them, thank you, Mark. Thank you. Are you sure that I can take it? Or are you trying to neutralize me? Thank you very much. Very grateful. So we have ETGA and sustainability, and to be very open to you, our objective is to try to get an approval on both of the proposals, which would allow us to not to have the 7th of December board meeting, but of course, this is only going to happen in case after the discussions everybody is comfortable with that possibility. Otherwise, of course, we will keep the plan as it was. And with this, thanking to the task force the relevant effort that they are making to present on the reactions and the responses to the comments, the board's comments on the project, I would give the floor to Ken, Caroline, to guide the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gabrielle. Maybe before I pass the floor to Caroline to walk the board through the how the task force has thought about the various comments that have been raised, etc. I wanted to signal to the board the task force's proposal for the session. The proposal is that we will take the discussion in two parts. The first part is going to be essentially now to walk the board through how the task force has responded to the comments that were raised on Monday. And sorry, on Tuesday, yes, not Monday, Tuesday, absolutely, day one. And you have seen the text that was circulated as revised by the task force. And so Caroline will walk the board through that. And then the task force would like to ask the board for a little bit of additional time to come back to the board with a set of further changes, small changes, in response to the additional comments that were submitted to the task force on the text that was circulated earlier this week, following the discussion Tuesday. And that second part of the discussion will take place after the morning break. So we will allow the task force about 20 minutes or so to put the additional set of changes together, so that those set of changes can be circulated to the board. And then Caroline will walk the board through these additional small changes. So Caroline, is that consistent with the task force's discussion? Okay, so I'll pass it to you then.
Thanks, Ken. And if there's any comments from the board members that come through at this session, the task force will also take that into consideration. So thanks everyone for the comments that we received. I think essentially there are 3 points that we want to bring back to the board for discussion today. So during the board's discussion on Tuesday, Mark had raised whether the application material around the knows or has reasons to believe can be tightened. Other board members also supported this comment. And the task force has considered various options, including reference to inquiring mind and being aware and being alert, and also the reasonable and informed third party tests, all of which are in part 1 of the code. And part 1 of the code makes it clear that in applying the conceptual framework, the professional accountant needs to have an inquiring mind, exercise professional judgment, and use the reasonable and informed third-party test. And this involves obtaining an understanding of known facts and circumstances and being open and alert to a need for further investigation. It also involves considering the perspective of a reasonable and informed third party who weighs all the relevant facts and circumstances that the professional accountant knows or could reasonably be expected to know at the time the conclusion was made. The building block structure of the code is such that the professional accountant in public practice or the auditor needs to consider parts 1, 3, and 4A. And therefore, the task force view is that there isn't a need to repeat the text in part 1, in part 4A, in particular for section 405 that's being proposed. So as a result, the task force proposes not to go down this path of adding or making that reference back to part 1 and proposes to stick with the structure of the code. Further, adopting a different approach might require similar changes in other parts of the extant code where reason to believe is already used. So some examples of where the reason to believe principle is applied elsewhere in the code are set out on this slide. So there's R11, 800.11 and R990.7. So any additional application material in section 405 might result in a need to add similar application material. And as a result, the task force conclusion is that that application material is not necessary, but the task force recognizes the concerns raised and is proposing a strengthening of the text by changing the individual might consider to relevant to the individual's consideration in response to the comments that were made. And the task force proposes to make the linkage to the elements of the conceptual framework, including having an inquiring mind in the basis for conclusion. To take comments at the end?
I would pause here, Caroline, on this first matter and see if any board member has any comments, reactions.
Thank you. I have no objections to those words. I think they're perfectly fine. The issue I have is that there must be dozens of other mights in the code for which that irrelevant language could also be, and it's. I think you've constructed an argument that it's not needed. So again, I can't object to that, but it may just stand out as why isn't it elsewhere? So, that's a conundrum that I'm having an issue with.
Yes, Christelle, please.
Yes, just going back to Caroline's elaboration of the why, I was wondering if we had such a debate, maybe some non-authoritative material could be a support for making clear the, the references to different parts of the text, etc.
Thank you, Mark.
So I'm grateful to Caroline and to the task force for their further consideration. I think it's really helpful the way that Caroline's articulated the importance of considering this paragraph in the context of the conceptual framework. And I think sometimes it's too easy to forget that and to look at the individual paragraph without the framing. I'm supportive of the new construct that you've put in, and I note Andy's comment about the might, but actually I think it's in a way quite helpful because it provides a very good hook into what you'll say in the basis for conclusions, and therefore I think that's a really good opportunity to make sure that people understand what issue the task force was seeking to address when it was putting its final proposals to the board. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the comments. And Andy, just to your point, we agree that we don't want to change the structure in the code, but this application material is slightly different because it's not about the examples to factors or safeguards. It's just in examples to relationship or circumstances for consideration. So that's why we believe that not using the might is not actually against the drafting convention of the code. So it's
and I do acknowledge that the word relevant is used throughout the code, and I would argue it's never needed because no one is ever suggesting, I'm sure, that we would use irrelevant examples. So anyway, I said my piece, and like I said, I don't think it's wrong. I was only pointing out from just a drafting convention.
Thank you. And Christelle, definitely we will consider, if we have it in the basis for conclusion, it might be lost. So having it in non-authoritative material would be useful. So we have a list of FAQs that we're tracking. Thank you. And thanks, Mark, for your agreement with the revised text.
Caroline, I think that Ken wants to provide some comments.
I don't know whether if I'm going to raise what I'm going to raise is going to create more issue, but I was going to suggest to drop the words relevant to say examples of relationships or circumstances that are for consideration in complying with paragraph, or for involving the individuals for consideration in complying. But again, this is drafting on the hoof. So if the board is comfortable with what we have on the screen, I'd stay with that. Yeah. So just stay with just stay with what we have on the screen.
Next is around breaches, and this was something that Jens raised during our board meeting. And Jens' point was that what if it's a situation where the group engagement partner is the one who has information about the breach, and it's not coming from the component auditor firm. So the question is whether the group engagement partner is then required to take the steps that we've set out in R405.24 A to C. And so the task force looked at what has been proposed in section 405. And in the communication paragraphs, we do set out that the need for the group engagement partner to request the component auditor to communicate matters whether or not they complied with the relevant ethical requirements, and also that's in R405.4, and in R405.3, the group engagement partner has the responsibility of making the component auditor aware of relevant ethical requirements. So we believe that if we take these paragraphs and requirements together, if the group engagement partner is aware of information about a breach at the component auditor firm, the communication in R405.3 would require the group engagement partner to make the component auditor firm aware of the relevant ethical requirements and request that the component auditor firm communicates compliance. And as Andy had pointed out on Tuesday, we hope that the communication between the parties will, exhibit the right ethical behavior in the discussions, and that this would lead to the component auditor firm identifying, evaluating, and addressing threats to independence. And those threats would then be communicated back, or the assessment made by the component auditor firm would then be communicated back to the group auditor firm and the group engagement partner, such that R405.24 will then allow the group engagement partner to carry out the steps in A to C. So as a result, we're not proposing any change, but we think that the proposals deal with that situation or scenario as well. So I would like to pause at this point. I know Jens is not with us. I don't know if he's joining. Oh, Jens, are you happy with the response?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
And are you on the train or are you?
No, I'm still in an office here. It's fine. I can follow you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gabriella?
Yes, I think that Christian forgot.
Oh, okay.
Well, any comments? Everybody's comfortable with this proposal?
Okay, so then we'll keep going. And the next is on effective date. So the task force proposes that 15 December 2023 is the effective date for changes in chapters 3 and 5, hearing the comments from various board members like Luigi and Rich and others. We propose to also reword the section on effective dates to make it easier to understand the various effective dates. So what you see on this slide is the reference to 15 December 2023 that deals with changes coming from chapters 2, chapters 3, chapters 4, and chapters 5. And in terms of chapter 6, we have also proposed splitting it up into two parts. The first part that deals with audits and reviews of financial statements and audits of group financial statements, because that is for a period. So it's for financial statement periods beginning on or after December 15, 2023. And for assurance engagements other than audit and review engagements, with respect to the underlying subject matter, if it's covering periods, then it would be periods beginning on or after December 15, 2023, and otherwise it would be as of December 15, 2023. And the last effective date is related to the change in definition of listed entities and pies. So we've brought in that header to make it clear the reason for making this change and the effective date. And there's also an editorial change at the end of that bullet. And some board members had also asked to look at the text in chapters 3 and 5, and we have provided that in the slides. So with that, I'll pause, and Gabriella, can we take comments?
Yes, of course. The floor is open for comments to these proposals. Caroline, I think everybody's comfortable. I don't see anyone wanting to raise any issue. So great.
Thank you. So actually at this point, we were proposing to do a page turn, but as Ken mentioned, we have received comments from some of the board members in response to the turnaround text. The task force has looked at all the comments, and we are coming back to suggest some additional changes. And so maybe given that we are early, we will stop at this point. Maybe just in case there's any board member that's got any comments other than what we've put up. Apart from those that have sent in your written comments.
Thank you, Caroline. So I think we should break now for a few minutes, like 20 minutes.
Well, I'm just looking at Caroline and Sylvia. 15, 20 minutes. How long do you think you need? Would you
can
to
we
be more
start at
comfortable? 20 minutes?
10:30. I think we can
Okay.
start at 10:30.
10:30.
That's
Shouldn't take too
that
long.
clock.
Yeah.
Okay. So that the task force can still work a little bit on those comments and come back with the final proposal. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So it's early morning break for everyone.
So thank you very much for being back, and thank you again to Caroline, Sylvia, and the task force for finalizing the documents in this break, during this break. And Caroline, I'll give you the floor to say whatever you need to say about the work done in this during these minutes.
Thank you, Gabriella. So what we have up is the document that we circulated to the board yesterday. And we've put in the track changes for the 4 changes that the task force is proposing this morning. And as we go through the page turn, we'll highlight those 4 changes when we get to the relevant page. And so we'll start with page 1, and that's section 400, whether there's any comments. So this is on the definition of engagement team, audit team.
Yeah, Sylvia, if you could enlarge the text a little bit, I think that'd be helpful.
Okay. So 400.1 to 400.9. Any comments? Seeing none, we'll go on to 400.10 to 400.14. So this also covers public interest entities. Okay. Then we'll go on to page 4, which is the start of section 405 on group audits. So 405.1 to 405.3A1 on page 4. 405.4, R405.4 to R405.7A1. So at R405.7A1, this is a change that we are proposing. So here we are providing examples of relationships and circumstances. And when it came to loan or guarantee, a comment that we received was to track the text in section 511, which the task force agrees. So we have changed the second bullet such that it tracks the text in 511, and we've made changes to the first bullet so that it's consistent in the presentation as well as tracking the text in 511. So the bullet reads as a loan or guarantee involving see section 511, an entity that is not a bank or similar institution unless the loan or guarantee is immaterial, or a bank or similar institution unless the loan or guarantee is made under normal lending procedures, terms, and conditions. Any comments up to 405.7A1? Okay, we'll go on. So from R405.8 to R405.12. And we'll go on R405.13 to 405.16A1. And 405.16A1 is where we're proposing the next change this morning. One of the earlier comments actually did suggest that we consider accounting and bookkeeping services as an example. And when we circulated the turnaround, there was support for adding in that additional example. And so the task force has made this change of putting in the first bullet on providing accounting and bookkeeping services and including the reference to subsection 601. We then moved the last bullet up to the second bullet, given that in terms of the sequence that relates to subsection 606. And we've then put the advocacy role as the last bullet since it's from subsection 608. So we've also included the references to the 3 NES subsections. Ken.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. And as I read this code, I just wonder, this is just a minor edit, and that's to be consistent with the second and third bullet point, and that's to add the words for a component or the client to the end of the first bullet point. And that's would make it clear that we're really talking about the provision of accounting and bookkeeping services to a component or the client.
Thanks, Ken. Chriselle?
Adding what Ken asked, just this means that component auditor firm cannot provide accounting and bookkeeping service to the component, which is normal, but can provide bookkeeping to the group outside the component. If I read it now, before there was no more disclosure, so for me it was forbidden for both. In the perimeter, if you are auditor, you're not bookkeeping, but now that means that a component auditor can make the bookkeeping for the group or for a substantial part of the group or whatever. That's surprising to me.
Rich.
The component would be downstream of a pie, so you can't do bookkeeping to it. So you can't do it upstream to the group either. It's a pie.
That would have been my reaction as well, Christelle and
So
Rich.
this means that what Ken was adding is narrowing instead of describing the whole prohibition.
Oh, yes, Denise, please.
Yeah, and I think this is consistent with what we have for the information system as well. So if it's being done upstream, you would essentially have the not subject to audit exception if you're only auditing downstream.
But that assumes that the upstream entity is not a client.
Yeah, oh, of course, yeah.
But wait, we're the group auditor and the group's a pie. So it is a client, audit client.
It works the same way as any other not subject to audit exception, that it's only, and we may need a few more words in this first bullet. The component audit client that is not a public interest entity, just be consistent with other bullets. But the idea is that that component auditor firm outside the group auditor firm's network is now prohibited from doing the bookkeeping at the component audit client because that's what they're auditing. But even though that upstream entity might technically be an affiliate, you'd still use the not subject to audit exception, just as with any other audit client, right? Same as the second bullet.
Yeah, and it may be that this is a matter for clarification in an FAQ, right? But I don't think we are suggesting that we are going to change the existing NAS provisions, because essentially all we're doing is going by the provisions as they are, but we will need to elaborate.
Yes, Rich.
I'm struggling with this because if that work is material to the parent, then I don't know that the group auditor could rely on the work of the component auditor.
Galen, please.
It wouldn't just simply be a self-review threat either, would it? I mean,
No.
if you're part of the the group audit team. It seemed to me like that'd be a conflict. Maybe you're not going to go back and change 600, but I mean, this implies that would be the case. I agree with Christelle's comment.
Luigi.
I do not understand the doubt, frankly, because we are speaking about the component audit, the component audit firm outside the network. So it is not the group audit firm. It is someone that is at the margin of the group. And we are saying that elsewhere above in the group, it is providing bookkeeping services that has nothing to do with the component. There are no self-review risks, there are no anything, and therefore we can take advantage of the non-subject to audit provision in the code. So why there should be an issue, even if material. If it is material, there could be other consideration, but not the self-review risk.
Okay,
Fully agree.
yeah, thank you very much, Luigi.
And again, it's important. The clarification Sylvia said in that this is a component audit client that is not a PI. I think is helpful. Just to make it very clear that we're not dealing with a PI.
Okay, Rich, are you fine? Okay, thank you, and thank you for the questions, because this also helps makes us be sure of what we have here. Thank you.
Yeah, and if the board is comfortable, that is another question we can add to our list of FAQs.
Okay, thank you. So if we then go on, 405.16A2 and all the way to 405.20A2. And going on 405.20A3 to 405.23A1 on page 9. And then on to page 10, R405.24 to R405.27. And this is where we have another change to bring to the board's attention. So in R405.27B, Roman 1, the change is in relation to the whether actions have been satisfactorily addressed. So initially, when we had the text in R405.27A referencing actions proposed or taken, and we've changed that to actions that can be or has been taken. And as a result, correspondingly in B Roman 1, we've changed it to actions that will or has addressed satisfactorily the consequences of the breach.
Any comments? Brian.
It's just a super minor edit thing, but I wonder, it reads awkwardly with where the location of satisfactorily is. It seems like it would be better with will satisfactorily address or has addressed, but it's just an editing point.
I'm thinking
We should ask the Englishman.
Yeah, well, I would put it in both places if you want to bring it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Ken, that would have been an execution sort of issue for my former boss. I agree with Brian. So if you have will satisfactorily address, and then it should be or have addressed, because actions has become plural. So you can't have has, you need have. Have you got rid of it? Oh, sorry, that's fine. My eyes are failing. But no, I think what Brian, I'm very comfortable with what Brian proposed and not duplicating the satisfactorily.
So the action will satisfactorily address or has addressed the consequences of the breach. Okay. So you've made the change?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So if we then go on, so there's no more change in the text. The next change is on effective date, but we'll continue with the page turn. So on page 11, oh, where are you now? Chapter 2. Sorry, chapter 2. Any on page 12 and 13? Chapter 3 on page 14. Chapter 4 on page 15. 16, 17, 18, and on 18 of chapter 4, on page 18, in chapter 4, there's section 510 in here. So the effective date change was to include section 510 because we omitted that. So if we then go on to 605 and 900 of and that's the end of chapter 4. And then chapter 5. And then chapter 6 on the glossary. And then chapter 7, which is arising from pi. And on effective date, so as I mentioned earlier, you'll see that the second bullet, the third sub-bullet of the second bullet, we've added in 510. And at the end, we've also added in that early adoption will be permitted. So with that, we've gone through the changes from this morning's task force meeting and the entire text. Any final comments from any board members? If not, Gabriella, back to you.
Thank you, Caroline. Once again, are there any other comments from board members on this final text? So if not, thank you, Caroline and Sylvia and the task force. We seem to have here quite an agreement around this final text. And with this, I think that we can consider the possibility of having a vote on the text. But before that, I'd like to ask the board members if you are comfortable with voting this project today, or if you are not comfortable and you'd like to keep the initial plan of holding the voting on the 7th of December. Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay, thank you very much. And so in that case, I will pass to Ken to run the procedure appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. I just want to check whether Jens Paul is with us. Jens, if you are with us, it would be good to see you on the screen. That's fantastic. Well, let's make sure while we still have you on the screen to run through the process or the procedures rather as promptly as we can. First of all, let me confirm to the board, as the board will have seen in the agenda material, the supplement to agenda items 2 and 3. My confirmation to the board that up until the beginning of this board meeting, the board has adhered to due process in carrying out this project. And during the course of this meeting, the board has also followed due process. That's for the record. And secondly, I'd like to run through a few confirmations with Caroline as chair of the task force. You will have seen some of those confirmations in the cover note for the agenda item. But for the record, again, Caroline, if you would please confirm to the board whether the task force has considered, whether the task force has brought to the board's attention all significant issues that have been discussed in the task force meetings.
I confirm, yes.
Thank you. Following the task force's 45th meeting, does the task force believe there's a need for further consultation?
No need.
Thank you. With a sense of relief. And let me really just confirm around the board table here, if any board member believes there is any further matter that you believe needs to be discussed in the board meeting, arising from the consultation process on exposure. Is there any matter, any question that you believe needs further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, then, Gabriela, then we can proceed to the voting procedures. And like we did for the technology document, the vote is in 2 stages. The first vote is a vote to close the document for no further discussion. All the issues have been closed. And I will ask, first of all, if there is any board member who is abstaining from that vote. Anybody who would like to abstain? Oh, Begonia, sorry.
I'm not going to abstain. I'm not a member. But I just want to say that for the PIOB, this is a very important project. I already mentioned that on Tuesday. We think that the solution that has been included in order to consider the top-down and bottom-up approach, we hope will succeed in achieving the independence that all auditors working in the field in the area have to do it, and in particular of those coming from the component audit firm outside of the network, which is the most critical thing. But on a whole, the PIOB is quite happy with this standard, as we think that it satisfies the public interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Begonia. That's very helpful. Any board member who is voting against the document? And then a show of hands then if you're supportive of the document to close the document. So we have 18 board members voting for Gabriela. So that's unanimous approval. Thank you. Let me just move swiftly to the second round of voting, and that's on the matter of re-exposure. Let me turn first to Caroline to confirm to the board the task force's recommendation on re-exposure.
So the task force is not recommending re-exposure.
Thank you, Caroline. The board will have seen the rationale for the task force's recommendation in the meeting papers. Does any board member still believe there is any need for re-exposure at this point? Seeing none, then the board has approved the final pronouncement.
Thank you very much once again. I said already a few things about this project and the importance of coming where we are last Tuesday, but I would reiterate everything that I said before about the importance of the project for the public interest, about the relevant, outstanding effort of the task force to come up with a solution that would satisfy everybody, all the stakeholders, and again, sticking to the public interest requests. I'll highlight again the effort of all those who were involved in this project over a long time, over 45 meetings, which is an impressive number of meetings, and somehow reveals the work behind this project. And finally, stress the importance of this project and of the proposal that we have just approved to elevate, to make sure that all the pieces fit together, namely with the IESBA standards, and that we elevate the ethical bar in group audits, which is critical. So thank you very much to the task force, to the staff supporting the task force a long time, Sylvia and the others before her, and to the board for this very constructive and very professional, I would say, approach to the work that allowed us to anticipate the voting for today and to get a smooth approval without concerns, after having been able to address the many comments and the many suggestions that were made on this. So thank you very much, and congratulations to the task force and the board as well. Well, and I think that we will not break again. And we will move to the next topic in the agenda, which is on sustainability. The task force has, the working group has also worked hardly to make sure that we were, that the revised project would be submitted today for consideration, discussion, and hopefully, if possible, also for approval, anticipating as well what had been planned to happen next week on the 7th. Mark, can you will you please present on the changes made and the way you addressed some concerns and some comments that were raised?
Thank you, Gabriella. And yes, I'll go through this in two parts. The first is I just want to talk through the revised papers that were sent round to the board earlier this week, and I'll just go through the main changes that we made to those papers to address feedback from the board. If we need to pull it up on screen, Laura will be able to do that. And then the second part is just to explain some subsequent changes that we've made in response to further feedback that we've received. So if I start with agenda item 3A, the revised paper that went around, there were really two critical areas that I just need to draw the board's attention to. The first of those is that we now include within the appendices the feedback that we received from IFAC, from the IESBA, and from IESBA, and that there are no material issues there other than referencing of dates that are of concern. So we have no sort of, we have no issues that were raised with us that need further attention or explanation in this document. The main change, which is a slightly embarrassing thing to have to confess to as a result of my gimlet eye on the detail of the drafting, is that paragraph 48 has changed because, unfortunately, in the speed of writing the papers, we cut and pasted the public interest section from the use of experts paper onto the sustainability paper. I feel slightly more comforted by the fact that not everyone noticed that as well, so I'm not alone. But we have updated the text in the paper to reflect the public interest considerations and how we serve the public interest through this project in paper 3A. So, you know, those are really the key things. The other thing in response to feedback that we received from board members is we've put additional text in the in section H about the project outputs and the project timetable to better flag within the project plan which pieces of work will fall within work stream 1, so looking at the independence considerations, and which pieces of work will fall within work stream 2 that will be looking at the ethics considerations, so amendments that need to be made to part 1, 2, and 3 of the code. So that allows anyone reading the project plan to better understand how that divides up. On paper 3B, the main change that you'll notice is that we did choose to revise the name of the project, so explicitly that it is the use of experts, because that is the broader role of that. And we also added in some text that Caroline had provided with us, which just allowed us to set out the wider range of activities that are provided in the context of these sorts of information, and obviously in revising the code that we have to take account of. But we've got, and also in doing that, we've referenced the experience that we will draw on, learning from the tax planning and the technology task forces. So those are the key changes that we've made to documents 3A and 3B. In terms of a further change, just to draw your attention to, in respect of in respect of paper 3B, and this is in respect of paragraph 14 of 3B, what we've actually done is we've recast the paragraph now. So in 14, it was previously 2 sub-bullets. Bullet A, which covered the independence considerations arising from the assurance of sustainability information. And then we had 1 bullet that covered the ethics considerations. What we've done in response to some further feedback is we've split that out into 2 bullets, one of which sets out the ethics considerations in respect of professional accountants in business, and one of which sets out the ethics considerations in respect of professional accountants in public practice. So it really is just a way of delineating the 2 and making clear that these are the components that will fit within the second work stream that's looking at making revisions to the ethics part of the code. So really, Gabriella, that's all I wish to say. That there's comparatively little change to that, obviously. Sorry. Oh, and the timetable, sorry, Laura's just prompted me. In terms of the timetable piece in respect of 3B, the use of experts, we've just recognised the fact that we've allowed a little more time in the articulation of the timetable, because we've recognised that Laurie's task force will be in the position of starting from a standing start. This is genuinely a new project that's emerged out of the considerations of the working group and the wider discussions around the strategic work plan. And therefore, it is probably a more realistic thing to reflect in the timetable that they will be very much looking at a December exposure draft. There may be a possibility with the sustainability work that we go earlier, but of course we will keep the board up to speed on the considerations that we have to make and the progress ultimately that we're able to make. But that is where we've got to. I think that if we can borrow someone else's line and say, is this the end of the beginning? Because I feel that we're going to ask the board really to give us permission to start a very busy period of work. So thank you, Gabriella. I'm very happy to take questions from board members if there are any.
Indeed, Mark, thank you very much. Indeed, I think that this is the first day. I don't know if it's the beginning of the end, but I'm sure that this is the first day of a big and important project. And as you will listen in a few minutes, we will hope that the working groups and task forces will be able to kick off today by lunchtime, so we are not losing, so that we are not losing the scarce time that we will have to accomplish this project. Okay, thank you very much, Mark, and thank you to the staff for having gone through the document and made these amendments. As you said, it's nothing very radical or substantial, so I don't expect many oppositions, but of course the floor is open for comments and suggestions to the project plan that is being presented in the way it's being presented. No comments? Everybody's comfortable with what is being presented, submitted, proposed to the board? Okay. This is wonderful.
If that's the case, Gabriela, I would say we'll do a show of hands. It's not as formal as approval of a pronouncement or an exposure draft, but a show of hands would be useful. Just for the board's information, the approval of a project plan or a project proposal only requires a simple majority of the board, but hopefully we will have more than that. We'll take a show of hands now, and I don't know if Jens. Oh, Jens is on. Okay, so Jens, you're quick off the starting block, so thank you for that. But others as well, if you're supportive of the project plan comprising the two project proposals, if you could just put up your hand now. We have unanimous agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would recall you that this is 2 years, which means 24 months. If you have 40 meetings, I think this is going to be a full-time job for everybody. So thank you very much. I'm very happy that we managed again, not only to anticipate, but to have this level of agreement and the comfort within the board with this proposal. Looking back, it has been hectic and challenging to come here, to arrive in December 2022 after having started discussing sustainability in March with a project proposal, with a lot of work already done, a lot of obstacles that we met and we will still find along the way, but being able to overcome them and find agreements with everything that we already know and everything that we don't know yet, so which is making will make this project very challenging and very exciting at the same time. Thank you to the working group for the excellent work done, for the dedication and involvement over these months, and for submitting this proposal after many discussions and many things that we have been through on a topic that is new for all of us, for the board, for each one of us, and where we will, of course, along the way, feel sometimes unsure and less safe, but that I'm sure we'll get to the shore, and that the working groups and task forces will be able to bring this ship in the right direction and make it arrive in the right place by December 2024, which is our target, at least for 2 of the projects. Ken, I think that now it's time to speak about more concrete and operational things like the task forces and the working groups. I mean, it's operational, but it's extremely important. And so if you allow me, first thing, I would like to thank the board members for coming up with expressions of interests and for having enough and more than enough expressions of interest for these working groups and task forces. I would recall you that what we have approved and agreed upon is that we will have 2 task forces. The first task force is on reporting and assurance, sustainability reporting and assurance, with 2 they was initially called drafting groups, but we would like to change this name because we expect these groups to be more than drafting. We expect to have a lot of thinking and research and etc. So drafting is too narrow, and so let's call them work streams: work stream 1, work stream 2. Each one of these work streams will have chairs. Mark for the first one it has been announced. Christelle for the second one, and the task force 2 on the use of experts will be chaired by Laurie. And thank you to the 3 of us for kindly accepting this considerable challenge for the next months. Then, on the basis of the expressions of interest that we have received, and it's not easy to come up with the balance and right composition of each one of the groups. We tried, when possible, to stick to the preferences in terms of which group of the board members. It was not always possible because sometimes we need some people on one side. For the criteria used, it has to be a little bit different, but I think that what I'm going to present is balanced, is strong, and fit for purpose. So the first task force, and I will try to not to forget anyone, but first working work stream led by Mark Babington will be composed, in addition to Mark, by Jens, who was already a member of the working group, Brian Friedrich, and Chana. This will be the group, the work stream dealing with independence in work stream 1. The second one, led by Christelle, will include Vanya, will include Rich, and will include Sungnam. So again, Christelle, Vanya, Rich, and Sungnam. This will be the members of Workstream 2 on ethics for reporting and assurance. And Task Force 2 on the use of experts, led by Laurie, will include Sadia, Adam, Luigi, and Andy Minter, and Sanjeev. This is a slightly larger task force, but if necessary, we can explain something about that. But one thing that is important is that the task forces are appropriately composed, and that we make sure that they have the necessary wisdom, profiles, availability, which will be very much important in this case. So this is what I wanted to announce with respect to these task forces and working groups. Of course, they will have to. Then there will be the coordination group or committee. We don't have yet a name for it, but what matters, this group will be formed by the chairs of the 3 working groups or streams or whatever: Mark, Christelle, and Laurie, Ken, and me. This is going to be the coordination group or committee, Ken.
Yeah, and I would suggest for the overall coordination group that we call it the Sustainability Coordination Committee, comprising the chairs of the work streams and the task force, and yourself as the board members. So that's a committee of the board, with myself ex officio in a staff capacity. And essentially it would be called the SCC, the Sustainability Coordination Committee. And that's going to avoid a little bit of entanglement with the EFR SCWG, which is the Standards Coordination Working Group. And I think it would avoid some confusion between the 2 groups. But calling it SCC would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I fully agree. Also, because working group was possibly not the best description of what this group wants to do. We don't want to work. I'm kidding. So as to the staff, and again, just to make everything clear, the staff will be working together. This is clear that even if each one of the staff members will be specifically allocated to one of the working groups, they will have to work together and back each other, because there are not many. So and because there will be a great need of coordination of information about what the other groups are doing, etc. But as a first line allocation, Sylvia will be supporting the work stream 1 of task force 1 together with where are you? Yeah, together with Keith Billing, who is Mark's TA, but that will be considerably or fully allocated to the support to this task force work stream. Laura will be supporting the second one, and Cam will be supporting the task force 2. Geoff will be involved in together with Ken in coordinating and overseeing the staff and providing all kind of support that will be necessary in this case. So they will be both very much involved in following the work and providing technical and management support. So this is the dream team that will work together for the next months, aiming at having an exposure draft. Well, I'm not going to repeat the dates that Mark mentioned, but hopefully by September next year for the first two working groups. Until the end, let's say until the end of the year, but preferably well before then. We'll see what is possible to do. This is going to be a great challenge for the board, not only for the ones involved, but for the others that are not directly involved, because this is, we also need from the people that are not directly involved in this work, the necessary challenge that these groups will have to have. So this is not only for the task forces and for the working groups, this is for the whole board to be completely involved. And for that, we expect and hope that we will be able to provide continued information to the board about what's happening, about what is being decided and suggested. It is possible that we will have to hold some additional board meetings. I don't know how many. And yesterday I got some questions about that because people need to. So we will have to make a decision. But I would be careful here because it is possible that we may need other board meetings that we are not foreseeing at this stage. We don't know. This is something that we are starting today without knowing exactly which kind of tsunamis we will face along the journey. So be please available, ready, agile, so that all the board can contribute as much as possible. The board members that will not be directly involved here will be as important as the others because we work as a board, and because these 12 or 13 board members that will be directly involved will be, I suspect, so much involved that sometimes they will need to be challenged, to have questions from the outside, and this is the role for the board members that will be not directly involved. So I very much urge you to feel part of the as part of the project as all the other board members. This is a challenge for us all, for all the staff, all the board members, all the technical advisors. With respect to the technical advisors, we got some expressions of interest. These decisions are always very difficult to make. But at the end, we made an option, which is to have only board members in the task forces. For the reasons that I have mentioned, I will not repeat. We have severe constraints in terms of budget. We have to be very cautious and rational in the use of our resources. This is such a this project involves such strategic thinking and decisions that this was the decision that we made. Nevertheless, the technical advisors will be extremely helpful in providing support to these task forces. So don't feel that you are not in, because you will be in all the time. You will be requested. Those who provided, who expressed interest, and I'm going to name them. It's David Clark, Kristen Vidal, Marta Cremerius, and Masahiro, Chris Strong, Guillemana. I think these are the ones that expressed interest, which doesn't mean that others can't, as appropriate, be considered. Namely, for instance, she's not here, but I think that Laura Friedrich would have some interest, and she did not express interest because she understood that probably it was not going to be possible to involve them, but we also count on her and on her support. These technical advisors will be extremely useful first in outreach. We will count very much on technical advisors for the necessary outreach, namely in helping organizing the roundtables, the global roundtables, and I'll let Ken say something about that we are planning to organize by the end of March, early April, to get input from the stakeholders. Your help and your contribution here will be absolutely critical, but also in providing technical assistance when requested and as requested by the task forces, by the staff, etc. So as I see it, the expression has already been used here at this point more than once, but I'll use it again. We'll work like a reserve force for everything that is necessary. And some of you, as necessary and as the task force will organize the work, may even attend some task forces meetings, depending on the distribution. And I think that we'll have to leave it that distribution for a little later because it was not possible to speak with everybody. So give us some days until we organize the work of the technical advisors. But be ready because you'll be involved. You will be able to attend some task forces meetings virtually because we can't just afford everyone traveling. Or if it's in New York and you are in New York, you can easily attend as well. So it's not at all not counting on the technical advisors. On the contrary, the staff is wonderful but scarce. So your help and your contribution from these perspectives will be actually very important. Ken, at this stage and before I close, do you want to say something about the roundtables?
Absolutely, Gabriela. Something about the roundtables, but also maybe a couple of additional thoughts as you kind of rounded off the compositions of the task force. I think it's useful to inform the board that in relation to coordination with IEESB, we have the mechanism of correspondent members. First of all, on the IEESB side, they have put forward one of their board members, Isabel Traxengessen, who is on their sustainability task force already. So she will be the board liaison from the IEESB into our board. And from our board to IEESB, Rich Husken has agreed to play that role. And it's going to be a very important role, as you will all appreciate, given the close interconnection between our standards, especially on the go-forward basis, and the work that the IEESB is doing. So Rich is going to be partnering essentially with Isabel Traxengessen on that front. Secondly, Galen Hansen, not to ignore you, Galen, you have expressed an interest in observing some of the conversations on the sustainability task force. We'll do as much as we can to accommodate you on, especially joining virtually. I think we are constrained on the budget side, as you'll appreciate, but there's absolutely no reason not to have you as an observer to some of the meetings. And then with regard to the roundtables then, so we had an initial discussion in terms of what might be a plan of attack with regard to the roundtables. We started to look at dates and so forth. And in conjunction with Mark and the Sustainability Working Group, we basically came to the tentative conclusion, I would say, or at least at this point, subject to any further consideration regarding logistics and so forth. It's going to be essentially 4 roundtables. First of all, the first one in tentatively in Paris towards the end of March. I think it's the 27th. I don't have the exact date, but I think it's been yeah. So the 27th of March in Paris. And the reason why it's in Paris is, well, first of all, it's a central location, and essentially nobody will object to be in Paris, as we appreciate. And but more importantly, we know that there are a lot of the non-PA population of service providers in France, and Christelle, you'll be able to help us enormously there, together with Bruno and any others who can help us to make the connections to the non-PA community. The second one would be essentially the week after, and that would involve Mark as chair of Workstream 1, traveling to Singapore. And why Singapore? It is because the Singapore Institute of Chartered Accountants, they have offered to help host the roundtable with stakeholders in the region. And that's going to be enormously helpful for us. I'm sure Caroline will be not too far away from the roundtable in some sort of capacity, but definitely in Singapore. And from Singapore, then Mark would travel to Australia for the 3rd in-person roundtable. And essentially depending a lot on China, precisely China, Jeff, Kristen, and any others who are or will be in Australia. to help us really organize this event in Australia, and helping then connect the board to Australian and New Zealand stakeholders. And yes, we did consider the logistics and some of the travel between Singapore and Australia, and whether it made sense, in fact, to have two separate events rather than just one because of the travel distance. So then the fourth one then is going to be a roundtable in covering the Americas, North and South America, tentatively in North America, again, subject to consideration of logistics. And we haven't identified a location yet. Indeed, if we can make it work, then we will make it work in person. But again, subject to confirmation of the logistics. Yes, Laurie, did you want to?
Just one question.
Yep.
Recognizing that, are these going to be available virtually as well as for the live? We're figuring out a way to do that. If you don't have an answer, that's fine. I'm just thinking out loud.
we will figure out. It might be feasible to do it in a hybrid mode, as in fact we're doing this board meeting in a hybrid mode with some participants virtually. But given my expectation that the roundtables will generate a significant level of interest from stakeholders, we're going to have to go by invitation. And try to really make it manageable. So in other words, it's not going to be a cast of
free
1,000.
for all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking as much about board members who want to be able to see it, but we're not going to be flying everybody all over the place. I think super useful to get that mental engagement and hear what people are saying for members of the board that have the time to do that.
Indeed, especially if it's going to be in their time zone or close enough. That's an excellent idea. Absolutely, all board members will have an opportunity to connect into the roundtables, and we will absolutely work out the roles and the assignments of responsibilities in terms of who's going to be driving the discussions and so forth. Again, all of these issues and questions will be worked out in the coming weeks as we start to look at the plans and transmit the sort of the save the dates and start to put together the invitations to the stakeholders.
Thank you very much, Ken. I think that with this, all of you and me as well, we are understanding what it will mean for this board the next times, starting today. There will be a lot of work, not only on the technical side, developing the proposals, standards, etc., but on the outreach side as well. It's going to be tough because this is easy to say that we are going to organize 4 roundtables. What it takes in terms of resources for the IESBA staff, it's a lot. We understood that with the tax planning roundtables, and it was much easier because it was a much narrower population and they were virtual. So this will be much more demanding in a very short time frame because we were initially aiming at holding them a bit later, but then it will. We need to get this feedback from stakeholders and make decisions as soon as possible about what to do, where to go, etc. So I ask for your understanding of something that may be less, things that may happen along the way because the staff will be incredibly busy with all this, with the support, the technical support, but also the outreach, the organization and everything. One board meeting away, which is not easy as well. A lot of things have to be organized in that respect right before the roundtable. So this next month will be incredibly busy, and we of course will be thankful not only for your understanding, but for your contribution as much as possible when requested and by your own initiative. And I thank you in advance for that. So yeah, I think that with this topic is also we are ready. Thank you very much once again to all of you. Begonia, sorry.
I just want to say a few words before you close, because we're ready to close the session. The only thing I want to insist is congratulate the board for the accomplishment that you have achieved during this meeting. You have completed 2 important projects. The one on I always have problems with the spelling, but I prefer to say engagement team and group audit, and the one on technology. So both are quite important projects, and they have been finished. So congratulations. It remains the PIOB approval, but it will be, I hope it will be done soon. And about this, the third project, which is now being launched, the one on sustainability, I don't have anything to say. That is quite an important project. And I am happy to hear that the outreach events have been already organized. Well, organized. They will be done in the very next future. And the sooner the better, as you mentioned, because getting the information from the feedback from the stakeholders, the diverse stakeholders that will be interested in the topic is very important. So from the public interest perspective, we think that you have achieved a very interesting, you have accomplished a very important projects during this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Begonia. This is very good to hear from you. But let me just also, because I was going to say that it's not only that we have achieved what we have achieved, but we are comfortable that we have, at least we think that we have met the requests and addressed the concerns that along the journey in these very different projects have been raised by the PIOB on behalf of the public interest. So this is also a matter of comfort and a sense of achievement, mainly in those projects where understandably the PIOB had more concerns, and that we were able to address them and face them and come up with solutions that, to our understanding, meet the concern, address the concerns and meet the public interest requests. So I think it's I'm not going to say much at this point in time as a closing, because we are not closing. We still have a meeting on the 15th, but on sustainability, and to close the topic, thank you very much to all of you. Day one, we expect the working groups. Yeah, Ken, sorry.
Yes, before you really close, Gabriel, a couple of additional items really on sustainability. Number one is as I reflect on our outreach engagements, and in particular our conversation with the new chair of the IESBA board, Jean-Paul Sauvé, and he really put out a very clear message to this board. And that message is communicate regularly with your stakeholders and do it on a proactive basis, because he really believes strongly in communication. And with that message, I think it would be helpful and befitting for this board to issue some sort of communique to our stakeholders, so that we can reach out to the broad community and let them know where the board has come out as a result of this board meeting. We will be having a couple of engagements over the course of the next week or so. We have a meeting with the CEOB next Tuesday. And then there's a roundtable that IESBA is organizing on December 14th. So we will obviously inform those particular stakeholder groups as to where the board has landed on sustainability in terms of the project plan. But we do have to consider the broader stakeholder community, and the best way to do that really would be to put out some sort of update or communicate, as I say, to let everyone know in essentially the plan for the way forward. So that's number one. And number two, the work of the task forces start now during lunchtime. I think, I don't know if Jeff, you have organized a meeting room or something. Yeah, so there's no pause for the strong and the earnest and the willing, the coalition of the willing.
Yes, just very quickly. Thank you, Ken. So the first task force, sustainability task force, the two work streams will meet in the green room, and then the experts task force will meet in the orange room immediately at lunch.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. As you see, we will not keep you calm. With this, we are reaching the end of the meeting. Let me, before we go to the most important topic, which is saying a few words about the ones that will leave us soon. I'm very happy and very happy indeed with what happened during this week. at this board meeting. I think that we made incredible achievements in terms of results, in terms of not only anticipating but being able to come up with decisions on 4 different work streams. ETGA, technology, strategy and work plan, and sustainability. And hopefully in 2 weeks, we will have some some other decisions. And it's very good to start the year with something completely new starting today, but also with our desks clean and with the sense that we did what we had to do, and that our hands are now free to work in other work streams. I appreciate the very constructive, but very committed as well attitude and approach of the board members during this meeting. A lot of alignment around the issues, but it was not because there weren't questions and there weren't comments and there weren't concerns. So it's exactly what I expect from this board, is that we are active, productive, but constructive as well. And it seems, and I said that yesterday as well, that we are very much aligned around the same goals, the same values, the same principles, and the same understanding of what is our role and our mission. So I think that we are closing the year with in a very good situation. I will resist to say more about what was the year before, because I think it should be on the last meeting on the 15th, but I can't resist looking back and thinking where we were 1 year before, with 5 or 6 new board members, including me. And the progress that we managed to do all together with those who already had more experience, with an incredible staff supporting us all the time. I think this year was a very extremely important year for the IESBA. With everything, did we innovate? Yes. And I was thinking about my initial words in March last year about what is important. Innovation, yes, we did it. What I call the otherness, looking to the others, looking outside. This is exactly what we are doing. Not only because we are undertaking a lot of outreach initiatives, but we are taking profit from it, valuing the opinions and the information and the positioning of the others, and making sure that we work for the others and not for us as a board. We are instrumental of contributing to the public interest. Or whatever we do is not an end in itself. It's something that must be used by others and for the others, and that's exactly what we are doing. So I must say that I'm very happy with 1 year after, almost 1 year after having joined this board. I'm I'm happy. I have a sense of that this sense of purpose has led this board over this year. It exceeded, I must say, largely my expectations with respect to the excitement of the work, the nature of the topics and the issues that we discuss, but the impact that we make above all. And this is what brings us motivation and the strength and energy that we will need to continue innovating and not being afraid of making a difference and making different over the next few times. So thank you very much for this year. Thank you very much for this board meeting. Thank you very much for this year, the 2022, and for everything that we achieved together, because it's in your hands. It's in our hands to make it happen. But this is not here. We still have one session of this board meeting on the 15th. So that will be the end of this session, and I will probably have more things to say. What I need to say now is that this is the last day of physical meetings of some of our board members and technical advisors. And of course, we want to signal this moment appropriately, thanking Gregory Driscoll, Hero, and Caroline for their amazing, impressive contribution over their terms with us. It's been a very good time with you. Each one of you, in different ways and in different areas, provided a very substantial contribution, allowed us to have the perceptions of different parts and geographies, parts of the world, geographies, etc., with different profiles. It's always sad to see people going, but this is the nature of things, and this is life. What I'm sure about is that these people, Greg, Hero, and Caroline, will stay, of course, with us, not only because we will miss them dearly, but also because there is a mark here. Everything that we will do in the future will have a marker from the past and from what others did. So Caroline, Hero, and Greg will be here together with us all the time by what they gave us, what they provide us with, what they contributed, etc. They will make part. So the family it keeps on growing because new ones will come, but that doesn't mean that the members of the family that were there already and that for these reasons will be a little bit more distant and less involved will not make part of the family all the time. So thank you very much to all the three of you. Caroline, a special word for you, of course. It couldn't be either way, not only because you were the vice chair, and thank you for your availability, but above all for your incredible dedication to this board, which is really amazing. The dedication, the contribution, the level of commitment, not to speak about the technical knowledge, which we will miss as well, and I will miss it very much. So I think that this board and IESBA has reasons to be very grateful to Caroline for her for all everything that she did for this board, the material contribution, but also the attitude, the behavior towards the board members, the staff to whom Caroline made sure that she was always close, supportive, dedicated, etc. And this is something that we notice in everything you do. And myself, because Caroline over this year was one of the relevant critical pillars of my onboarding process and of making me feel well and supported at this board. Caroline provided not only, and you know, that provided an incredible contribution to this board, but to me as the deputy chair of the board, Caroline was really a pillar, an example, someone with whom I learned not only from on the technical side, but on the dynamics of the board, the approach to the topics, and that was always there all the time, not only during the meetings, but in between meetings, to help me solve some problems, some dilemmas, some ethical dilemmas sometimes. She was, I think, I'm sure that Caroline will keep on being and valuable help, support, and someone with whom I could share a lot of things. And I thank you for your, I have to express on behalf of the board and my own behalf, our gratitude and my gratitude for your dedication, contribution, commitment, and for your solidarity all the times, not only to me, and I really felt that all the time, but to the board members and to the staff. So thank you very much, Caroline. You will stay with us. And I'm sure that I will reach out to you many times, and we will for sure require your company. Let's say that sometimes for some initiatives that we will keep on undertaking.
Yes, so Gabriela, thank you very much, and these are very warm words indeed. And Caroline, you will have an opportunity to share your reflections, not now, but on the December 15th final day of the board meeting, and that would be my suggestion. But we have some certificates to hand out. First of all, to Greg. I don't know where Greg. Oh, Greg. Yes, please.
So.
Hero. Oh yeah. Thank you. Hero, if you don't mind coming over.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Gift from IESBA.
Last but not least,
Thank you, Ken. We will have to. Yeah, thank you. Can you take a picture with us?
Sure. Yeah, we can read out there. We can read out there.
While we wait, Ken, are there any other housekeeping issues or other issues that you want to speak about? Or?
No, other than to say lunch will be ready in about 10 minutes or so. So the sustainability and experts task forces basically now organized in effect, and they will convene during lunchtime to begin their sort of initial planning discussions. And with that, I think, with that, Gabriela, I say we bid farewell to our board members because that should close the meeting today. And then, yes, we will reconvene on this on the 15th. The tax planning task force is expecting to have their revised text available next Monday for circulation to the board. The plan is to allow the board about 5 days or so until the Friday of next week to come back to the task force with any additional comments. And the task force will meet the following Monday to work through any additional comments. And then we will then be in a position to bring to the board the final text for consideration on the 15th.
Thank you. Caroline, just these are more, less institutional, as we say in Spanish, recuerdos, gifts. But I think they will help you if you want to open and show it to, because in one of them there is the board. So it will help you recall each one of. I think we can close the session.
Yeah,
now.
well, I was going to suggest, Caroline, I know a good luggage shop around the corner. Yeah, so I think we are sort of more or less done, unless anyone has any matters to raise at this point. Not seeing any. So yeah, so we will for those who are having meetings over lunch. Yep. Please go forward. Oh, by the way, one final thing that I should not forget. We do have a Christmas gift for everyone. They are in those blue bags on the windowsill ahead of you or behind you. please pick one on your way out with our best compliments for the seasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. See you on the 15th. Yeah, and there will be time for Christmas wishes and messages. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. So one more thing. You have seen maybe one email that I sent you this morning, saying that the call for candidates for the board has been published by the PIOB. So please spread it as much as possible among your networks, so that we can get good candidates, good new board members next year.
Yeah, and Gabriela, yes, indeed, it's final thing. It's an aperitif before lunch is being wheeled in. Again, with season's compliments to everyone for a very successful board meeting so far. Very good.